Hi, this is Steve Wagner, and in this presentation, we're going to look at how to manage the stress of leadership. This is part one of the presentation. Here's an overview. We'll start out discussing why it is stressful to lead. Then we'll get into the leader's influence on followers' stress. We'll also discuss recognizing the signs of stress. Then, in part two, we'll talk about institutional consequences of stress, managing stress, and we'll look at some references.
So why is it stressful to lead? There's many different reasons why it's stressful to lead. First of all, leadership involves ambiguity. It requires that you be out in front of other people, of trends, of changes. And there's rarely a path that's been predefined for you to follow. There aren't readily available answers. And often you have to make important decisions based on a limited amount of information. And even though you're making these decisions on limited information, people, your coworkers, your boss, your customers, they're expecting you to make the right decision. They're going to hold you accountable. So leaders live in a land of ambiguity. They're often facing the unknown, hoping for the best, and planning for the worst. Leadership also involves a lack of control. This seems somewhat paradoxical, but it's true. In the environment that we lead today, we're leading across many teams that are dispersed throughout the institution. And you don't always have direct control over decisions that are made or resources that are allocated or the very environment that you're working in. So it doesn't matter if you're leading a whole division or a single department, you're not going to have total control. You often have to negotiate control with others. You have to share that control and you have to negotiate. Leadership also involves working beyond your technical expertise. Often the act of leadership isn't even remotely connected to the specialty that you studied in school. As you move up through the organization, you move further and further away from the specific training that you received. And so you need to be prepared to take on some different types of challenges. Some other reasons why it's stressful to lead. Well, sometimes leadership involves too much of a good thing. Even good news can be stressful. For example, the growth of the college is a great thing. However, it brings with it certain challenges that are often difficult to keep up with. While this is a good thing, it will lead to the same physical reaction to stress that can wear you down if you don't find time to recover. Leadership also involves doing more with less and having to do it faster. You're probably encountering long and frequent meetings. You've got more and more deliverables that you're responsible for, and less time to devote to them, and more people that you're accountable for. So you're often on a treadmill that's going faster and faster and faster. Leadership, as we've learned, is about relationships. And in these relationships, it can involve conflict. So you've got to work collaboratively with others to address the complex challenges that the college faces. That means that you have to manage relationships with your boss and your peers and the people that are working with you, with the students, with members of the community. And oftentimes in the course of maintaining these relationships, conflict arises. And that kind of conflict can be very stressful. Another thing that's stressful about leadership is the need to develop and support others. And so you may be responsible for the performance of others, providing people feedback, whether it be the rising star or the underperforming employee. It is often stressful to take on this responsibility. Have to balance how much you're doing for them and how much you want them to do for themselves. Leaders, like everybody, have their own personal struggles. Oftentimes they go unnoticed or they're hidden because you want to keep up the appearance of being a leader. But that doesn't make these challenges go away. Personal insecurities are different for everybody, but for everybody they can become a source of stress. Leadership also involves high expectations. These may be expectations you're placing on yourself, but they also might be expectations that others are placing on you. So again, you're expected to look and act a certain way, to stay calm and composed in a high pressure situation. And this kind of pressure can certainly lead to stress. There's also performance demands. Again, leadership is about attaining results. It's about meeting goals. Oftentimes it involves very complex problems and very short deadlines. And so you have to figure out again, how are you going to manage people to meet these performance demands? If you drive people too hard, it's going to produce stress in them and hurt their performance. But if you shelter people from the demands of performance, then you're going to take on too much, and in the end you're going to suffer alone and risk burning out. But leaders also influence how their followers experience stress. I want you to think back to the concept of transformational leadership. Again, this was a style of leadership that was recommended to you because it has many benefits. And one of the benefits that it has is that it leads to increased well-being and reduced stress in followers. So let's think again about what transformational leadership involves. Again, there are the 4 I's in transformational leadership. The first is idealized influence. This means leading from a place of values. What are your values? What are the organization's values? Creating a sense of shared values in the organization. Transformational leadership also involves inspirational motivation. This is speaking with enthusiasm, being a role model to others about doing things the right way. The third I is intellectual stimulation. This involves thinking outside the box. It involves questioning the way things have always been done and getting people to think in new and different ways. And the last I in transformational leadership is individualized consideration. This means treating each person as a unique individual with their own value to the organization. So why does this type of leadership style lead to more well-being, less stress? Well, a number of recent studies have highlighted 2 reasons. One is that leaders who act in a transformational style promote self-confidence in their followers. By having shared values and having a model to look at, by having a new way of tackling problems and being seen as a valuable individual, followers have more self-confidence. This style of leadership also increases the meaningfulness of work. People are more engaged in their work. And as a result, this research has found that followers have a greater sense of well-being. They have reduced levels of stress. And this is very important for organizations. Why is it important? Well, there's a number of signs of stress that we have to recognize. These are individual consequences that the leader or the follower may be experiencing when they are stressed. So, what are some of these signs of stress? One sign is a compromised immune system. So, people experiencing stress have more allergic reactions. They develop cold sores and flu-like symptoms. They're more likely to develop the cold. We also see signs of stress in the muscular system. Backaches, stiff neck, tight shoulders, headaches, joint pain. Stress also affects our cognitive system, or the way that we think. So people under stress experience memory problems. They have more difficulty concentrating. Other signs of stress include reactions in our emotional system. So people under stress experience more sadness and depression, more fatigue. They tend to have a greater appetite, or in some cases a reduced appetite. We also see that people under stress have a quick temper. There are also signs of stress that emerge in our nervous system. So there's difficulty sleeping, headaches, clammy hands, sweaty feet. Okay, very uncomfortable situation. That's just an automatic response to that physiological chain of events that happens when we are stressed. And finally, we see signs of stress in our digestive system. So it might be an upset stomach, it might be intestinal discomfort, it might be more gas or burping. Okay? So there's a wide range of signs of stress. These are things to watch in yourself, because these things are going to compromise you, and obviously these types of reactions are going to compromise your followers.